for a whole day. So you're at the mercy of your own emotions. But on the other side, if you have emotional intelligence, we say you understand and you manage emotions and use them for good reasons. Like somebody has just told us that you understand your emotions, they're neither good or bad, but how can you positively use them to your own advantage? If you only have a good IQ, then we say you are book smart. If you have high emotional intelligence, then we say you are art smart. And finally, like I've said, IQ gets you through school, while EQ gets you through life. And that becomes very important. So you only have a high IQ, you're just the smartest person, you're going to pass very well in exam. But once you jump out here, once you start interacting with people at work, you need more than that. You need a lot of emotional intelligence for you to be able to communicate, to interact with other people, to relate with other people. It takes emotional intelligence, and that is what makes you succeed through life. And that becomes very, very important. So I think most of us have been able to identify that. We have a basic understanding of where emotional intelligence is coming from and why it matters in life generally. Welcome, Bramwa. You are not too late, but you have missed like 3 hours. Yes. So like I've said, you don't need to have one at the expense of the other. You need both. You need to be both heart smart, and you also need to be book smart or brain smart, if I may put it that way. So we are all we are trying to say is, because you passed very well and you got yourself a nice job, make sure you plug in your heart, plug in your emotional intelligence to it, so that you can work with a combination of both your heart and your facts or your brain side of things. So you always need to be able to carry both for you to be able to find success, or you to be able to say that you're actually good at what you do. Before I look at that, these are some of the things we mentioned in the morning when you're talking about communication. I'm sure some of the things we mentioned, you're asking how to deal. I remember somebody asking, what do we deal with people who talk too much? What do we deal with people who don't listen? So that actually tells you something about the emotional intelligence. So if you're the person who don't listen, you're always the one talking. You're not giving the other person a chance to express themselves, then that speaks to your level of emotional intelligence. So one of the things, some of the things you can easily pick for you to tell somebody whether they have low or high emotional intelligence. One is people who are very argumentative. There are people who can argue about anything and everything, even the smallest of things. You miss something by 2 minutes and they want to argue about that 2 minutes for the next half an hour. So they can pick the smallest of things and create a mountain out of it and create a lot of unnecessary commotion. So that tells you that person has low emotional intelligence. On the other side, not listening, like we mentioned in the morning, there are people who just want to be heard and they don't want to hear the other person. Even when the other person is talking, they're actually not listening. They're waiting for their turn to speak. So they don't take the time to hear the other person and reflect on what the other person has said. That also speaks to their level of emotional intelligence. There are people who are always blaming others. Remember when you are describing the aggressive people, we talked about people who never admit their own mistakes. So anytime something goes wrong, they're going to blame it on somebody else. Even when it's in black and white, you can tell this was your mistake, but you just won't take it. You'd rather peg it on somebody else so that it doesn't become your mistake. Again, that speaks to that person's level of emotional intelligence. The one we commonly speak a lot when it comes to emotional intelligence is emotional outbursts. Like we talked again, seen a lot in aggressive people who lose their temper pretty fast. They would bang tables, shout back, shout at people, threaten people, even from the smallest of things. But even when there are major things, like we said, if you're an assertive person, you don't have to be loud for you to be heard. So you have emotional outbursts, that also speaks to your level of emotional intelligence. Like I said, these sessions are very interrelated. We can pick what we talked about in communication and bringing it to emotional intelligence. So if you're not a good communicator, it also speaks to your level of emotional intelligence, especially if you're on the aggressive side. It means your level of emotional intelligence is very low, and you probably need to work on something around that. So normally we can divide emotional intelligence into different areas. Some books will give you 4, some books will give you 5, but eventually they'll come down to the same thing. So it looks at the 4 areas, whether you are managing yourself or managing others. Remember our definition of emotional intelligence was about self, managing your own emotions and managing the emotions of others. So those are the 2 angles we look at. It's about self or about others. And then on the other aspect, you're looking at awareness. How aware are you of yourself, or how aware are you of other people? On the other side, we look at action. what action do you take on yourself and what action do you take on other people? So those 4 aspects give us the angles of emotional intelligence. So under self-awareness, or under the first angle of self-awareness, we look at how you understand your own emotions and how they impact your performance or how they impact the people around you. So how aware are you of yourself? We are going to look into the details, especially around self-awareness, because we normally say self-awareness is the basis of everything. If you know you normally lose your temper, if you know that that you normally are very argumentative, you already accept that you don't listen, that is the beginning. If the moment you're self-aware of who you are, then you can easily address all those other things. If you're not self-aware, if you have not accepted who you are, then you're not going to make any improvement. And the second angle of it is the self-management, which is yourself and the action you need to take. Once you understand your emotions, once you understand how you interact with other people, then how do you regulate yourself? Are you able to regulate your emotions? Are you able to use them positively? How do you manage yourself around there? Then you have social awareness, which is awareness of other people. Are you able to tune into other people's emotions? This is where the major thing we have around there is empathy. Can you be able to identify with the other person's perspective? Can you be able to sit into the other person's shoes? If somebody misses something because their baby was unwell or they are unwell or something happened, are you able to fit into that person's shoes and treat them the way you do want to be treated? So empathy counts a lot. And then the last angle is social management. How are you able to interact with other people and influence others, especially if you're a team leader? Like you said, you can't always manage people by power and by force and by pushing them around. The best kind of leadership is through influence. We normally say leadership is influence. So are you able to influence people? Are you able to understand people, tune into who they are, up to a point that you can actually be able to influence them and interact with them effectively? If you're able to master those 4 angles, then we'll say you have a healthy level of emotional intelligence. So you can have it in those 4 angles. Most other books will introduce one more items, that is self-motivation. We normally put it as part of self-management. Because if you're managing yourself, then you should also be a motivated person, generally, when you're doing your things. So those are the 4 angles that we look at as far as emotional intelligence is concerned. Like I've mentioned, we look a lot into self-awareness because it's the basis of everything. Once you understand yourself, you can now know what you need to regulate. You can now learn how to tune into other people's feelings and meet them halfway. And you can also learn how to influence them and interact with them. So self-awareness is the basis of everything. So that just summarizes what we've talked about. Under self-awareness, you need to be aware of your own emotions. You need to assess yourself in terms of your strengths and your weaknesses. And you need to have a healthy level of self-confidence. I will go into the details of that. The second part of your self-management, you need to have self-control. You need to be transparent with yourself. You need to be adaptable, be flexible to fit into different situations. You need to have the drive to achieve things and to push yourself to achieve certain goals. On your social awareness, like I've said, the biggest thing there is empathy, learning how to fit into other people's shoes. Organizational awareness, learning how the organization works. Service orientation, learning how to serve other people and serve clients. And finally, relationship management, having inspirational leadership, leading others through inspiration and through influence, developing others, being a mentor, being a coach to the people below you so that they can also become better. Being a change catalyst, looking at things that need to change within your environment and championing those changes. Managing conflict, we shall look at conflict management in the afternoon. Building relationships with other people, building teamwork, collaborating. So if you look at all these aspects, they tell you it has very little to do with your IQ. And that's why we are saying emotional intelligence at work becomes more important than your IQ, because these things have very little to do with how high your IQ is. They have very little to do with the A that you scored in school. They are the things you learn on the job. They are the things you learn as you interact with people around you. And they are the things you need the most for you to succeed as you interact with the people around you. And that is what makes emotional intelligence much more important than even having a very high IQ. So let's talk briefly about self-awareness. What do you mean by self-awareness? You mean that you need to have the ability to take an honest look at yourself without attachment to it being right or wrong. That is what we mean by your level of self-awareness. You need to be very honest with yourself. So whatever you know about yourself, that you don't have to necessarily consider it as right or wrong. Like, for example, you say, I'm talkative or I'm not talkative. Is it right or wrong? Not necessarily. You're just being honest with who you are. So that's the basic thing. First and foremost is to be honest with who you are without considering it as right or wrong. So that then after that, you see where is it more applicable. Because there are places you might need to be talkative, there are places you might not need to be talkative. So it is always, first of all, being honest about who you are and the person that you are without making it right or wrong. 3 things we look at a lot under self-awareness, like I already mentioned from the table. The first thing is your emotional awareness. At any one time, can you be able to tell how you feel and why you feel that way? It's always very important. You ask yourself right now, how do I feel? Would you have an answer for that? Would you know how you feel? And how does the way you feel affect the way you think, affect the way you act, and affect the way you say things? Because how you feel has a lot. If you wake up on a good day, chances are you talk to people nicely, you're very, very open-minded, you're willing to assist people around you, then it means you become a better person to work with, you're performing better, you're having good relationships. If you wake up on a bad day, or if you leave home on a bad day and get to work, chances are people greet you, you don't feel like responding, they can see it right on your face, you are looking angry, you are talking to people, you're talking back to people, you're not being very helpful. So how you feel affects you a lot. It says a lot about you, it affects how you talk, it affects how you think, it affects how you say things. If you don't have that awareness of how you feel, then you're going to struggle quite a bit. So, Steve, your message is noted. Thank you. So it's very important for you to make sure that you are aware of how you feel, you are aware of how that affects the people around you, because how you feel affects everybody around you, whether you like it or not. And it's good to have that awareness that today I'm not in my best mood, so I need to be very cautious about how I react, because that is very important. So normally the challenge we have with feelings is that, especially as Africans, only know 2 feelings. You're either happy or not happy. You don't know how to have very many feelings. The better you describe your feelings, the better for you. Because if you know I'm angry and not sad, because there's a difference between being angry and being sad. There's a difference between being sad and being frustrated. If you know that difference, it becomes far much easier for you. So it's always good to be able to have the ability to define your feelings as much as possible. So we always say one of the things you need for you to be able to be more self-aware is to improve on your emotional vocabulary. There are very many words that you can use to describe emotions. So it's always very important to learn as much as possible to break down your emotions. And adults are not good at this, unfortunately. I think children are better at describing their emotions than adults. If you're not able to describe your emotions, then chances are you're not going to know how to handle it. So some people just say, I'm sad. Maybe you're not sad. Maybe you're frustrated. There's a difference between being sad and being frustrated. If you're frustrated, it's because you tried something and it did not work. If you're sad, it's because maybe somebody else has affected you in a negative way. Knowing that difference changes everything, because you know what you need to deal with. So be very clear about your emotions. So learn how to describe your emotions in the best way possible. So there's this what we call a feeling wheel or an emotions wheel. You can Google it, you can find it anywhere. And learn as many words as possible. So because if you look at something like sadness, sadness can give you very many feelings. You could be feeling sadness because you are grieving somebody, you lost somebody, you could be lonely, you could be isolated, you could be feeling guilty of something, you could be regretting something that you did, you could be displeased with something or somebody, you could be dismayed that somebody could do such a thing, just be sorrowful because something went wrong. You could be depressed, which is serious, that you have been on a long mood for a long time. You could be hurt by somebody or something. So there are very many things that mean sadness. So if you just say, I'm sad, that is not enough. For you to be able to manage that emotion, you need to ask yourself, what exactly is this sadness? Is it loneliness? Is it guilt? Is it regret? What exactly is it? So the more you know how to break down your emotions, the better for you, because then you can be able to deal with the real issues. If you don't break it like that, it becomes very hard for you to deal. So that is around your emotional awareness. Be very aware about what you feel and why you feel that way. And then ask yourself, how does it affect people? If it's affecting people negatively, if it's affecting your relationships, if it's affecting your work, then you need to manage it and see how to make sure that it doesn't come out bad. Or you need time out for you to be able to sort it out. And that's very important. Self-assessment, the other thing under self-awareness, is knowing your weakness and your strengths. Like when you're doing an assessment in the morning about, am I assertive? You're just trying to check, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, and being open to it. And we say the best way to improve is to get feedback, because people can easily give you feedback. They can tell you, this one you're doing very well, this one you're not doing very well. And it is okay to have things that you're not doing very well, because we are not perfect. That gives you a chance to keep learning. It gives you a chance to keep developing. And that is very, very important. So always have that self-assessment of your weaknesses and your strengths. Be very open about who you are and the things that you need to work on. That becomes very important. And the last item that we look at under your self-awareness is your level of self-confidence. How assured are you in your own abilities, in your own goals? Without being arrogant, again, remember when we said we have healthy self-esteem, you're assertive, but you're not arrogant. But you can voice your views. You can say what you think. You can say what you feel. You can comfortably speak up for yourself without being arrogant. So that self-assuredness, the confidence in your own abilities, the confidence in your own goals, the confidence in who you are, the confidence in yourself as a human being is what speaks to your level of self-confidence. If you're confident in who you are, then it can actually show in your level of self-confidence. So when you talk about self-awareness being the basis of emotional intelligence, we are saying you need to have emotional awareness. Every morning, you need to be able to ask yourself, how do I feel? Why am I feeling the way I feel? How does this affect the people around me? How does this affect my performance? Then how do I manage it once I figure out what that is? And continuously have an accurate assessment of your weaknesses and your strengths, and have the openness to receive feedback, to continue learning and to develop. And then have the confidence to always voice your views, whether they are right or wrong, because you believe in who you are, you believe you need to be heard, and you believe in your abilities. Again, this has nothing to do with your IQ. It is basically how you survive and grow through life and through work. And that becomes very important. So to help us break this down in our self-awareness, I want you to think about at least 4 words that you can use to describe yourself. 4 words that you can use to describe yourself. Just say, I am 4 things. This speaks to your self-awareness in terms of your assessment of your strengths and your weaknesses. So it doesn't have to be positive. You can also say, I'm impatient. It can be positive, negative. I am. Think of 4 things about yourself, positive or negative. So we are trying to build our self-awareness. How much do we know? How much do you know in terms of your self-awareness? How much do you know you? 4 words that you can use to describe yourself. We are going to later share these in groups, so you better write them so that it will be for you to go and share. 4 things about yourself. I am. 4 things. So
it could be anything, right?
Yeah, it could be anything. Anything that you can use to describe yourself. Positive, negative, imagery. You can also tell us you are a lion, as long as you tell us why are you a lion. So pick 4 things that you can use to describe yourself.
I
4 words that you're going to use to describe yourself. You want to have a self-assessment of who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, because this speaks to the person that you are. It also speaks to your emotional awareness. You know, like I'm a happy person, I'm easily agitated. That also speaks to your emotional awareness. So we are trying to build our emotional awareness and our self-assessment of our strengths and weaknesses.
So it has to be with anything that has to deal with emotions.
Not necessarily. It can also be your strengths. Like I'm analytical.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I'm a good communicator. I am. Whatever you think you can use to describe yourself. If you know you, it should take you like 3 minutes or a minute to pick those words. For people who introspect a lot, it comes almost automatically. Don't overthink. If you overthink, you're going to start saying the thing you would want to be, not what you are. Yes. So 2 minutes to finish that. Where I am. That is what you are self-aware of. That's something you know about yourself, and chances are even other people tell you. You can also think about people. What do people tell you about you? It also makes it, and you also agree with it because people can tell you and you don't agree. So what is it that you know about yourself, and even other people normally maybe tell you about it?
Yes, sir.
So we should be done now.
Mm-hmm.
As we wait for somebody to finish their phone call. Kichilema. Okay, so that takes us here.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have written about ourselves, chances are it's what we call our open self. It's something we know about ourselves, and like I said, it's something other people know about us. So we normally use this table to help us increase our level of self-awareness. We call it the Johari Window in psychology. So we normally say your open self is information about you that both you and others know. People know you are talkative, people know you are quiet, people know you are helpful, people know you are honest, those things that people know about you, and you also know about yourself. So that is the basis of your self-awareness. I think things that you already know about yourself. But we also have things that fall in this other category that we call it our blind self. Things that are unknown to us but are known to others. People know something about us, but us we don't know it. So it is information about you that you don't know, but others know. And this you can only get to know if people get to give you that feedback. So it becomes very important for you to be able to hear from other people. What do they think about you? What do they know about you? Or what have they heard about you? There are things that they know that you probably don't know about yourself. And that becomes very, very important for you to be able to do. So to increase your level of self-awareness, it's always very important for you to be able to get information from other people about what they think about you that you actually may not know, something they know about you that you actually might not necessarily know. So for us to increase our level of self-awareness, I want us to go into groups. I hope we know each other. Purity, do you think we know each other, or are they all strangers to each other?
I think, where is Barak? Barak, what do you think? Does your team know each other? Jomo Kenyatta?
Yes.
Do you think, or do you believe all of you guys know each other?
Yeah.
Do you know everyone here?
Yes.
Like your colleagues?
Not all.
Not
Yeah,
all,
I know
but
them
you know
all.
a number.
But you know a number of them, eh?
Yes.
Cristiano, you look very relaxed. Do you know everyone in your team? You're muted.
Some of them.
Oh, you know some of them, eh? With Hichilema, the president. Unajua kila mtu?
No.
But a majority?
Majority.
All right.
Okay,
Is that sufficient, Rosemary?
yes, that's sufficient. So I want us to have, I think we are now more than 10.
Yes, we are.
Yes, so we can have 3 groups now.
Yes.
So what happens in those groups is that every person gets to read to the other people the 4 things they wrote about themselves. So what your I am, you're going to read to every person is going to read to the rest of the team. And once you read your 4 I ams, then you're going to get somebody from the team who you work with or somebody who you think knows you tell you something about yourself that you probably have not listed. So somebody from that team is going to ask someone to tell you something about yourself that you have not listed. That's why I was asking if we know each other. So out of the things you have told yourself I am, then somebody else is going to add 1 or 2 things, how they can actually be able to describe you. Then once we come back, we see we have discovered something about ourselves that we didn't know, but other people know about us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, so we go into groups.
Yes.
I want everybody to talk because I realize the other group, the other time, there are people who are not talking. So everybody gets to read their 4 I ams and then ask the people in the team to add to them at least 1 or 2 things they have not listed about themselves.
Okay.
That's okay. That would be how many people in that team?
We are on average 5 people per team. So every team has at least 5 people.
So we can give each person 3 minutes. That's 15 minutes.
Or 15 minutes. So it's already 11:30. So we come back at 11:45. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Enjoy your groups.
Yeah.
Then we come back exactly at 11:45. Okay. I have sent you to the groups. Okay.
To join.
Please join your groups. Welcome back. Let's wait for a few more.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Saizi ndio anafika.
He left us.
Oh, he was in group 1 or group 2?
Yes.
Which group are you, Gabriel?
Group 1. Group 1.
Two.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Sorry, I think I dropped off. Or what happened? All right, Rosemary, are we all back?
I think so.
All
Unless
right.
they have disappeared. I think there are 2 people who have disappeared. I'm not sure who they are. Because I thought by the time we are going into groups, I could see 17 people
Oh,
in
we
the
are
room.
back. We are only 15.
Yes, there are 2 people who have disappeared.
All right. What have we discovered about ourselves?
Yeah, anybody who discovered something about themselves that they didn't think they are? You've been told something and then you're like, I didn't know that one. Anybody who's heard something they never thought and would like to share? As I wait for Cristiano Ronaldo to come and read for us everything because he disappeared from here. I'm assuming it's a he, I'm not sure.
Cristiano, is a he.
He disappeared from his group. So he will have to read for us what he had written, then we'll give him feedback. But anybody from the rest of the team, something you've been told that normally you had not thought you are?
Everyone says I'm stubborn.
Really?
Okay, that's interesting. Somebody said you're stubborn and you never thought you're stubborn.
Yes.
Did they justify?
No, they just said everyone that I'm stubborn.
Okay, that's nice feedback, but you need to ask them to justify. But I don't think everybody can just say the same thing without a reason. So make sure you call them for a small meeting and ask them why. But does anybody wants to help Abdul why they think he's stubborn? It's always good. It's good to take feedback because we normally say perception is also something, like we said in the morning. The perception people have about you is very powerful because they'll always interact with you with that thought. So you need to either clear it up or ask them to justify why they think you're stubborn. Then based on that, then you can ask yourself, how do you manage that? Because it's important.
I think Jomo Kenyatta, our founding father, can elaborate.
He's stubborn, yes, but his stubbornness, it is what makes things move.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a good side of stubbornness. Why not call it
Yes.
persistence? Why stubborn and not persistent? Maybe we need to improve our vocabulary on how we define it.
Yes, or not stubborn, maybe a go-getter, or a leader. If he's making things happen, then he's a leader.
And there's something else to it, yes. But it's good to look at it from all angles. Look at it from all angles. Like I said, when you're defining feelings, sometimes you say one word, but you probably have a different thought in mind. So once you break it down, then you're able to define it. Is it really stubborn? Is it persistent? Is it all those things? Then that way you can see if it's something you need to work on, and it's a good thing. But thank you so much for sharing that, Abdul.
And glad to know that I'm no longer stubborn, I'm persistent.
Yeah, so that's why we need to improve our vocabularies so that we don't define the wrong thing. Okay, anybody else who was told something that they didn't know about themselves? I need at least 3 people. So the second one?
My team members told me I'm very strict.
You're very strict. And you did think you're strict?
Not very strict. I'm strict, but not very strict.
Not very.
Okay.
Okay, at least now you know they think it's very strict. So again, it can be a good thing depending on what you do. It could be once in a while you need to flex a bit. Yeah, so it depends on the situation again. So it's always good to get feedback. The third person?
Okay, my turn, eh?
Yes.
I think my team has told me something I didn't know, that I'm a good speaker.
Oh, really?
Very nice. So now you know you'll be speaking more often because feedback is everything. Sometimes you're taught something and it changes your life, by the way. So sometimes the feedback you get from people is what can even make you start doing something totally different from what you thought you could ever do. So it's always important to hear people's feedback. But all you're trying to say is that it's very good to build on your self-awareness, keep improving on who you are, because it's very important. So what you're trying to do at any one time is to increase these 2 tables, the tables that are known to self, because that's your level of self-awareness. Things that you know about yourself that others know, and there are also things that you know about yourself that others don't. And sometimes it's also good to talk about the things, and that's why I was asking about your I am. Because it's also good to know things and let people know who you are. Because you could know you're a good speaker, but other people don't know. So they never get to use that talent that you have. So even the things you know that other people don't know, talk about them so that you can get to make use of it. But on the other side, you're trying to reduce these 2 tables, the tables on my right. You're trying to reduce those 2 tables. You're trying to reduce the things that you don't know about yourself. You're trying to reduce the blind self, the information about you that you don't know, but others know. You want to reduce that table as much as possible. So get feedback. Ask people what they think about you. Get to know you're strict, get to know you're stubborn or persistent, get to know you're a good speaker. Get information from people about things they know about you that you don't know about yourself. That builds again to your self-awareness. It gets you to know a lot of your strengths. It also gets you to know things that people think about you that you need to improve on, because you actually thought you're good, but really people think otherwise, and perception is everything, especially if you're working with people. So what do they know? What do they think about you? That is important. But you also have things that you don't know about yourself and other people don't know about you. You have hidden potential, like we call it. So again, keep trying out new things, keep learning, keep testing yourself and see what you're capable of. So you also get to know other things that you don't know about yourself, and nobody knows you are capable of doing that. Every day is a day to discover yourself and know something new. So that's part of your self-awareness. Increase the things you know about yourself by getting feedback from other people and by exploring and trying out new things. So increase your level of self-awareness. So that's one way of getting to know about yourself, is getting feedback from people so that you build on your strengths and your weaknesses. The other way of increasing what you know about yourself is getting to know your personality and your temperament. When people are describing their I could hear people say, I am an introvert, I am this or that. How many people get to know their temperament? Or do you know your temperament, or do you know your personality? Whichever you know, it tells you something about you. So it's again very important for you to know your temperament or to know your personality, because it again speaks to your strengths, first of all, and it also speaks to areas that you need to probably work on, depending on whatever it is that you do. So maybe just by a show of hands, so that I don't assume we know, how many people have done a personality test? That you can confidently talk about your personality or your temperament, if not personality. By a show of hands, assuming we all know where our hands are on that screen.
You go to reactions.
Yes, by a show of hands,
hands.
how many people have done a personality test or confidently know their personality? Thanks, Barack. Anybody else? I want to see how many we are. Purity.
Is it the one we do when you're doing interviews?
The one I don't know what HR people give people these days, but I know they can give you a personality or they can give you an aptitude. So they could be two different.
The psychometric test, or which one is this?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Okay, what did that test tell you? Let me ask that.
No, I'm asking, is it the same as the psychometric test?
No.
No, it's not the same.
Not the same.
Okay.
Okay. I thought HR people all do a personality test at some point in their life. There's Melinda. That's the third person. We are doing bad.
Oprah is also in HR. Gabriel, Barack.
They have not tried to check their part. You can't be assessing other people and you're not assessing yourself. That is injustice. You're the people who keep telling you you don't fit in this position because of I don't know what, and you yourself haven't tested yourself. That is
Even some courses while you're doing your studies like business ethics, they do have personality test as part of their modules.
Oh, really? Which university is that?
Some people need to change universities.
I think so. Mine, we did not test personality.
This is new, as technology changes, you are learning business ethics, you are relating with the society. So they also need to know where you are placed in terms of personal ethics so that you can decide whether to adjust or remain where you are or elevate further.
Yeah, true.
Okay, interesting. I also did one some point in school, but I don't even remember what unit that was. If it was leadership or something. Okay, great. So it looks like we are not doing very well in terms of personality, but and especially we've got to do a personality test. It would be very long, so it would take us a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is do a quick temperament test. A temperament, once you pick your temperament, it's very easy for us to be able to interpret personality from there. So again, I hope we have our pen and papers.
Yes.
Okay, how many things am I sharing? I think I'm sharing too many things. So I'm going to give you as a table. Is it visible? Am I seeing my own thing?
Yeah. Test your temperament. It's visible.
Yes.
You can
test your temperament.
Yeah.
So for each table, you're going to circle no, you're not going to circle. In this case, you can just count the words that describe you, then see how many words you pick in each table. There are 4 tables. So right now I have each 2 tables. So read through the words and then pick the words that describe you. Don't overthink. Just pick the words that easily describe you, then calculate how many words you have per table. Then you'll see which table have you scored the highest, or which table do you have most words that describe you. Then from there, you can have an idea of your temperament. I hope those instructions make sense.
Yeah, so for each table, we count as many words as possible that we relate with.
Describe you, yes.
Okay.
The ones that you are sure are almost 100%, not the sometimes one.
Mm.
Somebody is writing on my screen. I don't know why.
I think that is Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm done with up to table 2. I don't know if everyone else is done.
Anybody who's not done?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we write where? Mhm. I-
Gabriel is lost. Gabriel, I say I'm assuming you have a pen and paper, so you are doing it on your own wherever you are. You are picking your
Oh.
words and writing them down where you are.
I've already written. I thought it's online.
Oh no.
Okay.
So I assume we are done with table 1 and 2. The ones who are not done. Okay, let me assume we are done. Table 3 and 4. Make sure you do the totals of your words. I hope we are almost done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
For me.
Anybody else who's not done? Okay. So if your highest score is on table 1, then we would give you a choleric temperament. If your highest is table 2, then we give you a sanguine temperament. We normally say the choleric is the doer, the goal-oriented, determined personality, very strong and direct, but can be very argumentative and very competitive. Then if your highest is table 2, you are the sanguine, very open, very positive. They are normally the talker, the most talkative people. So that also becomes their weakness. They talk too much. They don't easily follow through on tasks or obligations. They give up pretty easily. They can leave things hanging. If your highest is table 3, I'm saying this so that you categorize where you pick, then Purity will give us a call as always. Yes. If your highest is table 3, you're a melancholic, you are the thinker, have very high standards, very creative, very organized, tidy. Possible weakness, sometimes because of the high standards and realistic expectations, and close to perfectionists. Then table 4, sorry, that's an error. This should be table 4, phlegmatic. If your highest is table 4, you are a phlegmatic. Phlegmatics, we call them the watchers. They're always watching and listening from a distance, very quiet, very relaxed, very tolerant. So their strengths are they are very loyal and very accommodating, but on the other side, they can be indecisive and can be too sensitive. So from their scores, where do you think you fall? Like I said, this is just a basic temperament test. If you want to do a personality test, you need something longer, and there are very many online. Just take your time, go online and check for a personality test. It's going to make it very easy for you. If you feel like two are scoring the same, you can always check based on the description, which one do you think is stronger than the other? You'll have one that is stronger than all the others, another one that follows closely, and others that are very far. But you'll have two that are kind of close, but one will be stronger than the other.
Rosemary, let me see 4.
4 is phlegmatic, the watchers. Quiet, relaxed, friendly, tolerant, easygoing, very loyal and very accommodating.
What
But
if 2 of them tie?
That's what I'm saying. If 2 of them tie, then from the description, check which one do you do the most. Chances are work. Sometimes there is what we call adaptive temperament or adaptive personality. You are one under normal circumstances, but because of the work that you do, you have been pushed to become something else. But naturally, that is not who you are. So think about the natural you without pressure. Yeah.
The poll is on our screen.
Poll is up.
But Rosemary, just like a quick thought. So if, for example, your job drives you to be not who you are authentically, like what needs to happen?
It obviously means you are pulling more resources on yourself than you should. Your chances are you're constantly stressed about that work. It is too much work for you, if I may put it that way.
You change jobs, I'm on a bucket to apple. Praying and hoping you are going to adapt.
Yeah, like of course, this is Kenya, jobs are not very available. So hang on as you look for one that fits you. If you get one that fits you, but it's a good thing. I'm sure the HR people in the house will agree. You become more productive, you become a better person, you become more friendly, you are more calm. But before you get that one, hang on to the one that you have right now. But intentionally for a job that actually fits you, it becomes more enjoyable.
I would want to think so. So I see 9 of us have filled the poll. Can the rest, 6 are still pending? 10, 5 more to go. It should be on your screen. So just click on it when you see it. All right, I'll end the poll. These are the results.
Okay, let's. Lots of cholerics in the house.
I think so. Yeah.
Followed by melancholics, a few sanguines, and zero phlegmatics. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought HR has a lot of phlegmatics. Yeah,
HR,
maybe yeah, because they're accommodating nice people.
Only for a short while before you start pushing people.
Okay, maybe that explains it. It's why. But I'm also impressed you have a lot of sanguines. Most of the places I go, there are very few sanguines. Yes. Last week I had a team of 60 people, and there are only 3 sanguines in that company.
What? That's terrible.
Out of 60, yes. So it was quite an imbalance. So I think that tells us the number and the kind of people that we have in the house, and that now brings us down to what our strengths and what are our challenges. Let me not call them weaknesses. I want to call them challenges for purposes of being nice. So I want us to be able to relate those temperaments with personalities now, because personalities are normally an extension of temperaments. So once you get to understand your temperament, you can easily relate to personalities. So there are very many, like I said, there are very many personality profiling. Even one that can give you like 16 personality types that are very, very defined. But they all start with your temperament. They all start by asking, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Then they pick it up from there. So the temperament, the moment you pick your temperament, it is very easy for you to be able to pick your personality. So this is what we call the DISC personality profiling. DISC, like that is DISC, DISC personality profiling. It looks at 4 angles. Remember, the temperament looks mostly at 2 angles, introvert, extrovert. But the personalities look at 4 angles. So it starts with the outgoing, reserved. That is obviously the same as extrovert, introvert. If you're outgoing, you're an extrovert. If you're reserved, you're an introvert. Then it extends that to whether you are task-oriented or people-oriented. So by task-oriented, it means you focus more on work getting done rather than the more you focus on whether people are okay or not. So that explains the difference. So we can relate the 4 personalities here to the 4 temperaments so that you can easily relate. So the first one here, we have the D, which stands for dominance. Dominance, we normally give them the red color. They are the equivalent of cholerics. So if you, from the temperament, what stood out for you was a choleric, then for this personality test, you are the D, you are the dominant, you are the color red. So reds are cholerics. I'm repeating that so that I don't lose you in the discussion. So if you picked a choleric, then in this discussion, you are a red. You are the dominant color. So what you mean is that you are outgoing, you talk, yes, but you are more task-oriented. You're likely to talk about work more than personal matters. You care more about work getting done. Let's talk about how far are we, where is that report, not about my children or my personal life. You are outgoing, but more work-related. Then the yellow, in this case, are the sanguines. The yellow is the I influencing. They are outgoing and people-oriented. That means they are very extroverted and they care more about people. They are more people-oriented. So when they talk about people. They talk about people matters. They'll tell you about their children. They'll ask you about your children. They'll ask you about your hair and your dress, all those things. They're the talkative people who deal with personal things. So they are the I influencing color yellow. They are the equivalent of sanguines. So if from the temperament you are a sanguine, then in this discussion you are a yellow. You are the influencing. Then you have the S steady. I think these are the people we are lacking. They are the equivalent of phlegmatics. They are people oriented and reserved, meaning they are very introverted, but they care about people. So if they are to ever have a discussion, they can talk about people, they care about people, they're very affectionate, they really care about people. That's what I was saying. I thought they are the HR people because they're very steady, they're very calm, they're very quiet, very supportive, very nice people to have. So they are the equivalent of the phlegmatics. And the 4th table is there, the blues. Then we give them color blue. They are the compliant. C stands for compliant. They are reserved and task-oriented, meaning they're very quiet, they're introverted, and they care more about getting work done rather than about the people. So they're probably the quietest of the 4 because they can sit down and just get their work done without talking to anybody. So give them color blue. They are the equivalent of the melancholic. So if you, from the temperament, you picked a melancholic, then for this discussion, you are the blue, you are the compliant. So I hope we get to follow that. So we remember the red, in this case, the dominant, they are the cholerics. The yellow, the influencing, in this case, are the sanguines. The greens, sometimes also called the whites, for this discussion, they are the phlegmatics. And the C, the compliance or the blues, for this discussion, they are the melancholics. So I hope that makes our discussion clear. So I want us to describe briefly each, which I know we have already described. And then we see how we interact in the workplace and why we need to be aware of who we are. Why do I need to know that under normal circumstances, I'm a red or I'm a choleric? So the red traits, we normally say at work, the reds are the people who say, let's do it now. Remember, we say they're very competitive and very demanding. They say, let's do it now. Because they are goal-oriented, they want things done right now. They don't know why you have to wait. So they're normally very determined. They're fast thinkers. They think on their feet. They don't need time to think about something. Something goes wrong, we fix it, we move. Highly driven. They're always on the move, looking to get things done. But they can be very demanding. Remember, they are not people-oriented. They are task-oriented. They focus on work getting done by whatever means. Doesn't matter what time you need to get here. It doesn't matter where you are. This has to get done. So they're very, very demanding. They're very competitive. Remember, we say they're competitive and also very argumentative. If you start an argument with these people, it will never end because they have to win. They're very, very competitive and they are not patient at all. They don't understand why something is taking too long to get done. So for them, things need to get done now. So if you take long to do something, they get very agitated. So they want everything done here and now. So those are the red traits. And like I said, they are the equivalent of the cholerics. So our 42% who are the cholerics, remember, your good side is that you're very determined, you're a fast thinker, you're highly driven. But on the other side, you can be too demanding, you can push people to the wall. You are too competitive, sometimes you don't get to listen to other people because you want things done your way, and you're not patient. So you can really, really push other people. So of course, like I said, you have your strengths, always full of energy, and they have very strong management skills. That's why you find most managers are the cholerics, they are the reds, because they have the energy and they have management skills because of pushing people around. And notice I have said management skills, not leadership skills. There's a difference. They have good management skills, but not necessarily good leadership skills. They start very new projects with very high passion. When something needs to get done, they will wake up with all the energy to push it. And they're also very decisive. They make decisions very fast and they move very fast. But they need to remember a few things, especially at work. They can be very impulsive and they can be very irrational, especially when making decisions. Because they don't take time to listen to other people and they don't take time to analyze situations. They pick decisions very fast. So they can be a bit impulsive in decision making and they can be very irrational. They can do or require some things that don't make sense from other people. Like we said, they are not patient and they're also not caring, and they sometimes are not empathetic. So they need to remember, apart from getting work done, they need to learn how to be more caring and more empathetic. So empathy becomes something that if you're a choleric, you have to intentionally learn to always look at things from the other person's perspective. They easily lose their temper. They easily become agitated. Remember, they're also not patient. So again, they need to learn how to take short breaks to calm down and to calm their temper because they lose things pretty fast. And if they have a choice, then they work very well with people who have similar interests because then they don't have to keep pushing people. They work with somebody who is moving as fast as they're also moving. So that becomes very important. So if you are leaning towards the choleric, those are things to remember at work. Try to be more rational, avoid being impulsive or making decisions too instantly. Try to be more empathetic and more caring. Take short breaks to calm your temper. And if you have a personal interest, look for people with similar interests so that you don't have to keep pushing other people to the wall who don't have similar interests as you are. The next ones are the sanguines. You say they are the yellows. If your highest table is scored as a sanguine. Sanguines love company. So we normally say, let's do it together. They are the life of the party. They are very sociable. They are very dynamic. So they're very sociable people. They're very dynamic. They're the life of the party. They're the most social people you'll ever come across. Very extroverted and very people-oriented. They can talk about anything and everything. They can talk to a stranger. They can tell you about their children. They can tell you anything. But they can also be a bit impulsive because they don't plan. They're not good planners. So they can wake up in the morning and in the evening, they have decided to go to Mombasa. They have decided to go to another party they had not even planned. They can be very impulsive. They don't need to plan much. They get easily bored, very, very easily bored. They can be a bit informal as well because they don't understand why we take things so seriously. So there are people who can come to work at 10 and they don't understand why you are irritated in the first place. They're thinking life is never that serious. So we don't have to be so formal. And they don't like doing the same thing over and over again. So they'll come, greet people, go check on other people before they start work. So for them, things don't have to be so formal. Things can be a bit easy. So mostly those are the sanguines. Their strengths, they're very confident. They're normally very confident. They have very high level of confidence. They don't take offense at criticism. They take criticism very well, which is also a good thing. Yeah, they always take criticism. They don't take anything personally. Tell them, I don't like your hair. They don't take it personally. They're just going to laugh it off and go do something about it. They have very good interpersonal skills. They can get along with anybody. They're actually the only people who can get along with anybody. They have very good interpersonal skills, a very positive attitude. They get very well along very well with almost anybody. The office clients, they can get along with anybody. Because they're also very cool-headed. They rarely lose their temper. They rarely get to lose their temper, but they get to lose interest if something becomes boring or becomes too monotonous. But they're very cool-headed. They rarely get to lose their temper. For some things they need to work on, some weaknesses they need to embrace. They're not good time managers. They procrastinate a lot because they get bored with routines and schedules. So they need to learn how to become more efficient time managers and avoid procrastinating or postponing things. They need to try and combine dynamic tasks with routine tasks. Remember, they're easily bored by routine. So if they do something too routine, they get really bored. They like talking, they're sociable. So they need to participate in social discussions. So they're the people who want to sit in meetings, go for meetings. That's how they become productive. And they can take advantage of their sociability by negotiating conflict. Remember, they have very good interpersonal skills. So they're also very good at negotiating conflict. When there are disagreements, they can easily bring people together. So they need to take advantage of that in the workplace. So if you are a yellow, if you scored in as a sanguine, remember, time management is something you have to intentionally learn. You have to try looking for dynamic tasks so that you don't get easily bored. Make use of your social and interpersonal skills to negotiate conflict, to participate in discussions. It is going to make your work more interesting, and you're going to enjoy working. Then you have the melancholics. I think that was the next highest. We call them the blues. They are the perfectionists, remember? So they normally say, let's do it right. For them, things have to be done right. So their strength is that they're remember we said they are the thinkers. So they're deep thinkers. They think deep into details of things. They analyze things a lot. They're very, very organized. They're the people who know how their calendar unfolds the whole week. They know where they put their stapler, where they put their cap. They're very organized. But the downside of that is that they can be very formal. Remember, they are research and work-oriented. So they forget people easily. So they're very formal. They're thinking the meeting starts at 8, I show up at 8, we start. They can even forget to ask how your night was or to ask how you are doing. They're very formal. They question a lot. Not out of bad things. Sometimes they want to understand the details, but it can come out as disturbing because they asked too many questions. But that also means they are cautious. They take time to make decisions because they want to understand everything. They want to analyze the pros and the cons so that they understand before they make a decision. And that can make them take a bit of time to make decisions. Their strengths, they are very analytical, obviously. They analyze things very well. And that means they likely get things right. When they make a decision, as much as it takes time, it is likely to be right. Because they take time to analyze things. They have a very high intuition. They can almost tell when something is right or something is wrong. They're very tactful in how they approach situations. They don't mind doing routine work as long as it is well scheduled and they are feeling productive, they are fine. They have very strong problem-solving skills. They make great advisors because of being able to analyze situations and being very tactful. They're very good in solving problems and giving advice. Very wise and very creative. And like I said, they're classy organizers. Their time management is almost natural. They don't struggle with time management. But of course, they need to remember a few things at work. They can't survive with distraction. So if they are in a workspace that is distracting, it becomes a big problem. If their work is not broken down into tasks, if they cannot see a good schedule, they're also going to struggle with that work. They cannot handle deadline stress. So they cannot afford to procrastinate. They cannot afford to do things last minute. It is going to crumble them. So they need to always do their work early enough. They are not the people who work on adrenaline. Adrenaline, watia, cholerics, na sanguines. Extroverts are very good with the last minute rush. Introverts are very poor with the last minute rush. So don't wait for the last minute. Get your work done early enough, finish it and rest. They struggle with criticism. So when they're given criticism or negative feedback, they take it personally and it kind of hurts them. So they need to know how to separate feedback from themselves and take it objectively. Look at it as a way of improving and growing instead of looking at it as a flaw. They're used to being right, so they don't understand why they are wrong. So that makes them struggle with criticism. Because they're very good with details, they need to take advantage of that to solve issues. But on the other side, they can be perfectionists, and that can make them take too long to make decisions. So they need to learn how to avoid perfectionism so that they don't take too long to make a decision. So those are the melancholics or the blues, like we call them. Work-oriented, introverted. And finally, the people who are missing in the house, the greens are the phlegmatics. The most harmonious people, they normally say, let's do it harmoniously. So for them is we can't afford to leave anybody behind. We can't afford to have disagreements. They like peace. So they're the most patient people you will ever find, the most relaxed people you'll ever find. They rarely lose their temper. Very encouraging, very supportive. I normally say they're the angels of the world because they'll never bring trouble and they don't want trouble. But they can be very emotional. They can get pretty emotional. But they're also democratic, which is a good thing and can also be a bad thing because they can't move until everybody agrees. So they can slow things down because everybody has to be okay and everybody has to be treated fair. And they can be a bit passive. They can go pretty quiet on things. They struggle to express themselves. But their strength, they are the most productive employees. That's why you need some because they never drop anything. If something needs to get done, even if it means sitting until midnight, they will sit until it gets done. They're very cool-headed. Like I've said, they're the most cool-headed people. They're most steady people. They never lose their temper. Very good team players, very curious and very fair. They take long to make decisions, but they stay on the course. Cholerics makes decisions very fast, or they start things with a lot of energy, but they drop. They don't finish. They start too many things and rarely finish. But the phlegmatics take long to start, but the moment they start, they don't stop until it gets done. And that's a very good strength for them. Of course, at work, like I said, they also cannot handle deadline stress. So they need to always start with their work early enough, learn to solve one item at a time. They'll also struggle with multitasking, avoid procrastinating. But the most important thing for them is learning how to speak their opinion and discontent in public. Learning how to speak out becomes very important. So for phlegmatics, the most important thing is learning how to speak out and speak their contentment in public. So when it comes to communication, how do you communicate with each? What's the difference between how you communicate with a choleric and how you communicate with a phlegmatic or how you communicate with a sanguine? So the D style, remember these are the dominant, these are the cholerics, the reds. You have to be brief and direct to the point. They don't have time to waste. They are not patient. They want to move as fast as possible. So if you're communicating with a choleric, you need to be brief, direct, and to the point. Just focus on the results. Don't repeat yourself. Don't give general statements. Just go direct to the point and tell them what you want. Fast, quickly, and go your way. If you're Discussing with the yellows or the sanguines, the people who are very talkative, energetic, enthusiastic, the flowers of the house. Be enthusiastic, smile, chit chat, talk about the environment, talk about many things, give them time to keep talking. They like talking, socialize. So for them, the social side is much more important. So allow them to talk as much as possible. But if you're giving them information, don't give them too much details because they get easily overwhelmed. If you're having a discussion with a blue or a melancholic, they like facts and details, nothing personal. Facts and details, nothing personal. Don't give them pep talks, not chit chats, no small talk. They don't do small talk. But be persistent, diplomatic, and patient because they also take time to make decisions. The phlegmatics that we are missing, like we say, they are the calm, they don't like disagreements. So be personal with them, express your interest in them, clarify information, be polite. For them, the hardest, the important thing is no aggression, no confrontation, don't be rude, be nice. So for them, being nice is very, very important. So in summary, what are we saying when you're communicating with the 4 different personalities? For choleric, you're communicating with them, their mantra is be brief, be bright, be gone. No stories. Tell me what you need to say it in the brightest way, like direct to the results, and then disappear. You don't have to keep talking. If you're dealing with a yellow or a sanguine, what do they say? Involve me. Give me stories. Let me talk. Let me express my feelings. Let's have a conversation here. Let's enjoy this discussion. So for them, being involved is much more important. If you're dealing with a blue, they're saying, give me details or the facts. Analyze for me the facts, then I can give you a decision. If you're dealing with a green or a phlegmatic, they're saying, show me you care. Be nice to me. Don't push me around. Just show me you care, then you get the work done. So once you understand each and every person, then you know how to communicate with them better. And once you understand yourself, you also know why you need to always accommodate the other person because we are all different in different ways. And that becomes very, very important. So maybe then the question is, I'm missing a slide there. Then our question here is, how different are we in terms of what kind of disagreements then do we expect? What kind of differences do we experience from the different personalities, especially from our perspective? If you look at how we have described the 4 personalities, where do you think we are going to have disagreements or differences in terms of thoughts or in terms of how we work? What are some of the differences that we expect based on this? So, and why it is important for us to be able to understand ourselves and understand other people. So I'm giving a minute. I don't send us into groups because we don't have time, but I want to hear from 1 or 2 people based on the description of the 4 personalities. Where do you expect a lot of commotion? Luckily, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have phlegmatics. So we might not have people who worry so much about being pushed around. But looking at the other personalities that we have in the house or in the organization, I'm sure you have other people who report to you who have all these personalities. What differences or what disagreements do we expect to experience from these personalities? So I'm throwing it back. I need to hear from 2 or 3 people. What differences do we expect based on those different personalities or disagreements at work, in life, generally, even from your own experience? Any personality differences or crashes or disagreements we have come across?
The very first one I was thinking of, Rosemary, is when your manager is a red and you're a blue. Like that's a total conflict because you see this one is straight to the point, but you want to come in the morning and give them stories, what happened last night, what happened in the morning in the traffic, but they're like, no, you to me your reports. But you're like, no, but I'm trying to tell you this is what happened. So I think and also the reverse as well, like if your manager is a blue and you're a red, like it could be a terrible match at the workplace. So that one is normally what I keep seeing a lot with manager and follower kind of setup.
Yeah, where one wants to just go direct to the point, the other one is thinking, I need to analyze all the details and give them to you. And normally the clash between the blue and the red mostly is the patient side. The blue wants to analyze everything and get it right. The red wants it now. They are not patient at all. So they keep asking, why can't I get the report now? The blue is thinking, I need to analyze it. I need to get everything right. So it takes too long the red or the choleric takes too long to get what they need to get from the melancholic. And the melancholic is thinking, we need to get it right. We don't have to make a decision now. We can make this tomorrow. So yes, that's a collision that happens a lot in the workplace. So I'm waiting to hear examples or areas we expect to see collisions or disagreements in the workplace. Before I pick on people, because I can see apart from Hichilema, who is still on camera, the others
have left.
We are not going to see them.
Where is the team? Let us see you as we continue.
Melinda, let me pick the people who came in late. Oh, Melinda is part of us, so let me not pick her. I'm looking for people who didn't contribute in the morning.
Let's see you guys. Is Abraham.
On the disagreements we expect from the different personalities. If we don't understand this, we'll just go back and keep arguing with people. And then keep blaming each other. What are the challenges that we expect or we will experience from the different personalities at work?
Barak.
You can see Joe Biden is unmuted.
I'm still thinking.
Yes.
I can go.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
I think there can be conflict between red and green. Because red, you have to be, when you meet cholerics, you have to be brief, you have to be to the point and disappear. But for green, you need to show care. So for a choleric person, it might not rhyme with him or her.
Yeah.
Because maybe care comes with patience. So there can be a conflict.
Yes. Actually, that's for me the worst conflict you'll ever get in the workplace or in life. It is between cholerics and phlegmatics. So the reds and the green, it gets really bad because cholerics are very pushy, they're very argumentative, they're very competitive, and they don't any personal touch. On the other side, the phlegmatics or the greens expect all that. They don't expect all that. They don't want to be pushed. They don't aggressive people. They want patience. They want people who care. So they are normally a total contrast. They are totally different from each other. So the two rarely get along. It gets very messed up. So that's normally a very big conflict between the two. Yes, so thank you very much for that. That's actually one of the biggest differences that we have. One more person, then we move on.
Barak, you are about to say something before Joe.
No.
All right.
Magufuli, are you there? Save your crowd.
Yes, I am around. I'm not left. And I think sanguines and choleric, they can't match because for choleric, they are brief and they are strict. And the sanguines, they like chit chat and they like, you're talking too much about themselves. And yeah, they can't rhyme well with the choleric.
Yes, actually, that's normally the complaint you hear a lot from the sanguines is that They talk too much, and they talk too much of personal things, where the choleric does not want to get personal. So it also brings quite a bit of conflict. I want you to just tell me about the report, then you're here asking me about my children. I'm wondering, what do my children have to do with you? Just give me the report and go wherever you are going. So again, that's a conflict that happens. So the major conflict you find is normally the opposites. If you look at that, that table, the major conflict you get are the opposites. So when somebody said the reds and the greens will collide, that's normally a major collision, because the reds or the cholerics are pushy, the greens or the phlegmatics are the calm who don't want commotion, so they collide quite a bit. Then the yellow and the blues, because the melancholics are the quiet people who don't like disturbance and being, and they're the most reserved, and they focus on work getting done. Yet on the other side, you have the yellow or the sanguine who wants to do all the talking and talk about personal things. So the two can't match. One wonders, why are you talking about personal stuff? Get the work done. One is very organized and the other one doesn't bother about organizing everything. So they are like the total opposite as well. So those two opposites collide quite a bit. So you always need to ask yourself, when you're disagreeing with somebody, or when you're having too much collision, is it a perspective, or could it be a personality? But that does not mean that because you're one personality, you cannot try to fit it with the other person. So the idea is to be aware. That is why self-awareness is key, is to be aware of, these are my strengths, I'm focused, I push things, I get things done. But on this other side, I need to show a bit of empathy, I need to care. So you remind yourself that. I'm the melancholic, so I'm organized, I'm detailed, and all that. But on this other side, I need to be people-oriented, I need to greet people, I need to ask people how their night was. I'm the talkative, the sanguine, I'm sociable, but I need to focus on target and I need to manage my time. I'm the quiet, I don't like disagreements and all that, but I also need to be able to speak my voice, and I also need to let other people speak their voice and allow a bit of conflict for things to go. So it is not just about this is who I am, it's also knowing this is who I am, but I need to step up once in a while to meet the other person halfway for us to be able to move on. So that was around self-awareness. I said I would spend a lot of time on self-awareness because it is the basis of almost everything. And especially because today we wanted to talk a lot about communication and interpersonal skills. That tells you a lot as far as our personalities are concerned. So when it comes to self-awareness, like we said, it is about our emotions. It is you being able to understand your emotions, how you feel, and label them. It is also about your self-assessment of your weaknesses and your strengths. And that's where your awareness of your personalities comes in. It is how other people perceive you. It is what you know about yourself, all that. And your willingness to improve and become better, because you're not perfect. And once you do that, then you get to build confidence as well. So then the next thing we talked about after the self-awareness was self-regulation, or regulating yourself or managing your emotions as well. What we look at around that is that, are you able to redirect your impulses and your moods, or what we call thinking before acting? Once you know you get angry fast, once you know you lose your temper, once you know you don't speak out, once you know all those things, what do you do about it? So that becomes pretty important, that you learn how to manage yourself. What are the things we look at under your self-regulation is your level of self-control. Are you able to stay composed and stay focused under pressure? So even when things go wrong, you don't have to lose your temper. Like you said, you don't have to be loud, you don't have to be aggressive. You can still stay composed and think clearly and make sure that things get done. How reliable are you to meet commitments and objectives? You hold yourself accountable to do the things that you think needs to get done. That's very important as far as self-regulation is concerned. It's not just about regulating your emotions, it's also regulating your behaviors and your thoughts. How flexible are you, like you said? Are you able to change with uncertain circumstances? When things change, when things go wrong, are you able to navigate challenges without losing yourself in the process? That becomes very important. So part of managing yourself and regulating yourself is it being able to control your emotions, being able to control your behaviors so that you're reliable, and being able to control yourself and be flexible. When things change, you can change with them, and that becomes very important. Then talked about the other side of regulating yourself is your motivation. How motivated are you at work or generally in life? Do you look to improve yourself and achieve things? So under motivation, what are we talking about? Your achievement drive. Do you seek to improve Do you have standards of excellence that you have set for yourself? Do you look to keep learning and improving? Because it is very important that you're always asking yourself, what can I do better? Which areas do I need to work on? Like you're talking, do I need to improve my assertiveness? Do I need to learn how to communicate better? Do I need to learn how to interact better? What do you think you need to do better? It shows your self-motivation levels. Your level of initiative also shows your emotional intelligence, your readiness to seize and act on opportunities, going beyond expectation. Are you always looking to do much more than what is expected of you, or do you just do the bare minimum for the day to go? So that also shows your level of emotional intelligence. If you do bare minimum, then we question your emotional intelligence. Your level of optimism, because things go wrong sometimes or most of the time. So if things go wrong, are you able to keep going? Are you optimistic? Do you stay positive? That you can operate from a hope of success rather than fear of failure. So you wake up telling yourself it's going to be okay. And you keep persisting and pushing beyond the setbacks, which is also very important so that you're able to manage circumstances. So when you're asking again about your emotional intelligence, we're also checking about your self-motivation. Do you set for yourself some standards? Do you show initiative to push things? Are you optimistic when things go wrong? Are you resilient when things get tough to keep pushing beyond the setbacks? That also shows your level of emotional intelligence. The next item we talked about under emotional intelligence is your social awareness, how you respond to others. Remember we said emotional intelligence is you managing yourself and managing other people. So managing yourself is your self-awareness, it is your self-regulation, it is your self-motivation. Those three things talk to you as a person. They talk about you managing yourself. Your self-awareness, your self-regulation, and your self-motivation. They are about you. But when it comes to dealing with other people, you need social awareness. By social awareness, you are looking at your ability to understand and respond to other people's needs. And what are the things you look at under social awareness? The first one, like we said, is empathy. Are you aware of other people's feelings, their needs, and their concerns? Do you try to fit into other people's shoes? Do you ask yourself, if I was that person, how would I want to be treated? If this happened to me, what would I want people to do to me? So it is not just telling people you are sorry that this happened. It is also asking yourself, if I was in their shoes, what else would I have wanted somebody to do for me? Then you can do that for them. So trying to fit into the other person's shoes, trying to see other people's perspectives, not always coming with their preset mind, but trying to understand the other person's point of view. It also talks about leveraging on diversity. How well do you relate with other people from other walks of life? You respect and relate well with everybody, irrespective of their age, their gender, their religious background, their economic background, their race, their ethnicity, all those things. And you relate with anybody with respect, without judging them, without bias, without preconceptions, and respect them for who they are as a human being. Then that speaks also to your level of emotional intelligence. Organizational awareness, like we said also, how aware are you about how your organization runs? Are you able to build networks? So if I need something done, I can call the person in Mombasa and we can have a chat and they can get it sorted out for me. If I need something else done, I can talk to the other boss in that other department and I can still get to know something about that I needed to do. Just building those networks so that you can talk to almost anybody within the organization. You know who makes which calls and who can make which decision. Then you're able to build those networks within the company and good relationship with everybody so that if something needs to get done, you can actually get it done through those networks. And something else that speaks to your social awareness is service orientation, your ability to recognize and meet customer needs. Again, we all work for customers. So if you don't understand how to treat your customer, you don't understand what your customer needs from you, then you are lacking in terms of social awareness. So for you to say you have emotional intelligence, you need to show your social awareness. You need to show empathy, that you can fit into other people's shoes, that you listen and hear and see other people's perspective. You need to show that you leverage on diversity. You can respect and relate well with anybody, irrespective of where they come from or who they are. You have organizational awareness. You know how the organization works and you have built networks across the organization. You can get to reach anybody and have a conversation that you need to have. But you also have service orientation. You are always able to recognize what the customer needs, and you can be able to meet those needs. If you're able to do that, then you say you have social awareness, and that speaks to your level of emotional intelligence. And the final thing we look at under emotional intelligence is your social skills. Social skills. Most important things under social skills, first one is influence. We mentioned influence somewhere. We don't rule by power these days, we rule through influence. So are you able to win people over, to get consensus and to get support? How you talk to them, how you present issues to them, how you communicate. Like you said from morning, it's about how. That how is able to influence people and make them do things without you pushing them, then you have influence. Then of course, the other thing you have talked a lot about, communication. Do you listen? Are you willing to take good news and bad news? Are you able to talk about difficult issues? If somebody has done something wrong, can you look at them right on the face and talk about it without being aggressive, without being passive, assertively? You can handle issues. And lastly, can you handle disagreements? So in the afternoon, we are talking about conflict, resolution of conflict management, because it's part of your emotional intelligence, it's part of your social skill. How are you able to handle difficult people? How are you able to handle tense situations? Are you able to handle them with diplomacy and tact so that you don't lose the relationship? Because the most important thing in conflict is making sure that tomorrow you will still need that person and you can still talk to them. So how do you handle disagreements and make sure you don't lose relationships? If you're able to handle disagreements well, if you're able to communicate well, remember communicating is about listening, taking good and bad news, handling difficult issues assertively, then if you have influence, if you can make people do something without pushing them, then you have influence. And that speaks to your level of social skill. So those are the angles we look at when you're talking about emotional intelligence. The 4 or 5 angles that we mentioned. That you need to have your self-awareness. How aware are you about your emotions? How well do you know yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, so that they speak to your confidence? Your level of self-management. How well are you able to control yourself and your emotions? How well do you adapt to different situations? Do you take initiative? Do you push yourself to achieve things? That's your motivation level. Your social awareness, how empathetic are you? Are you able to fit into other people's shoes? How aware are you about how the organization works and how do you build networks within the organization? How much of service orientation do you have so that you care about your customers? But also your management of relationships, having influence as a leader, managing conflict, communicating, building teamwork, and all those things that come with your level of social skills. That is what, in a nutshell, speaks into your level of emotional intelligence. And that's why we said it is much more important than your IQ. Because if you look at these things, like you say, this is what gets you through life. It is you managing yourself, knowing yourself, and keeping improving yourself, and relating with the other people around you that makes you a better worker, a better friend, or even a better parent or a better partner than having very smart papers from school. And that changes everything. So that's the discussion around emotional intelligence. We are short of time. We have 5 minutes to go. So I'll use that 5 minutes to take comments and feedback, questions. Questions or comments around emotional intelligence? Or any comments
up to that point? I think Jomo Kenyatta left. Nilimwona akivaa mask, so I knew he was going outside. Oprah, what do you think? Hey, Barack, you're dozing off.
She felt cold and then went to look for a jumper and slept.
Yes, in the process. Blim, is it Blim? Yes, we've not interacted with Blim. So,
yeah,
any questions, comments? How are we faring on? We've done the largest part of the work actually. So afternoon should be very easy. Abraham, where are you guys? I'm in the lunch. Barak, your team leaves for lunch at what time? 12:30. Yeah?
I hope bado watu wako.
I really also hope so.
Let's see their faces before they go so that we get any comments before we break for lunch.
Yes, yes. Let's see a few people, please. Cristiano, Joe Biden, Pombe Magufuli. Like nikikutaja unaweka camera on, unasema present. We are now marking the register before we leave. Hey, Magufuli also went and got a jumper. I think it is pretty cold.
Things are thick.
Also, Joe Biden is in Mombasa, so that one is pretty hot. Where is Blim? Blim, 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 Blim. Oh, you've
Hello.
not talked to us. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How is it going?
Very okay.
You did not introduce yourself when you were starting. Tell us your good name.
I'm Bramwell Endovo.
Bramwell?
Endovo.
Endovo.
Yeah.
What do you do for Strato staff?
I'm a on-site supervisor. I work in operations department.
Okay, how many people do you supervise?
Quite a lot. Over 150.
A lot?
Over 150.
Over 150?
Yes.
Hey,
from different sides. Yeah.
So tell us, what is the motivation behind your name? Blim.
Oh, Blim, it's initial for my names. B stands for Bramwell, L for Lennox, E for Endovo, A for Aliero, and M for Mgalavai. Mgalavai is my grandfather.
You have like 6 names.
Yes.
Okay, when you come back in the afternoon, you need to give us your name of a leader that you admire.
Sure.
Or know of. You see, all of us have different names.
Yes.
So I actually thought Blim was a name of a leader or something.
No. Yeah.
All right. So I think that is it. Gabriel. Kwapi, let me see someone else. Abdul is not there. Okay, do we have any questions up to this point, or we break for lunch and come back?
I need to hear one comment before we break.
Okay.
Just in case I have been talking to myself. You are not talking to yourself.
I hope not.
Yes.
So any comment from the team?
Oprah, I can see you are Oprah or Joe, the two who are unmuted.
Unmuted.
I think I have one.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is, I don't know, it can be a question as well. From your general survey, can a choleric person, train and become a sanguine? And we have so many business leaders in this country, the likes of Mwangi from Equity Bank, the likes of KCB manager, CEO. So which is the dominant character with some of these, business leaders that we have in the country? Because I find it being dominant is good, and it normally applies maybe to, let me say, maybe finance people somehow to some extent. But again, when you transition to be a business leader, you must have influence. So which is this dominant character that we should all look out for maybe in the future to have? Thanks.
Thank you very, very much for that. The first question, can a choleric try to be a sanguine or train to be a sanguine? I'm not sure why you would want to train to be a sanguine. Or maybe you are just trying to be more friendly and more social and more of those characteristics. You can't say like you have totally shifted like 100%. Like I was dominant choleric, now I'm dominant sanguine. Unless, like I said, sometimes you do that because of work. But the amount of energy it is going to take you, you're going to be exhausted every day. Because if you're the work-oriented person, and every day you're going to try to be the people-oriented person, like 100% people-oriented, it's going to be a lot of work. You can pull it, but not for long. Stress is going to catch up with you. So you need to try and strike a balance. The best thing is to ask yourself, what characteristics of a sanguine do you want to have? I don't think you want to be the 100% talkative. You probably want to be a bit more talkative, which does not make you a sanguine. You're just trying to be an adaptive sanguine, if I may call it that way. Just reminding yourself that when I come in the morning, I'm going to greet people. I'm going to ask them how their day was. Once in a month, I'm going to join people for dinner, or I'm going to take people out for lunch. Those are just small things you pick that a sanguine would naturally do that you don't naturally do, and remind yourself or even schedule them that you're going to be doing them, just because you know you need a bit of that for you to be a more wholesome person. So you can't say 100% change, but you can pick certain aspects. And sometimes people do this intentionally. Like you're saying, most, especially like in politics, you do that intentionally. You get a PA who is going to organize for you meetings, tell you how you're going to behave, get an image person to tell you how to talk, how to stand up, how to do I don't know what. All those things are stage managed to fit that situation, but that's not really who you are. So you don't really change, but you pick a few things that can actually work for you. When it comes to leadership, remember when I said cholerics are good managers, not necessarily good leaders, because there's a difference. Pushing work to get done is not the same as influencing people to get work done. There's a difference. So what that means, for the longest time, before we get to differentiate the two, we thought cholerics were better leaders. And that's why we had the pushy people, the independent fighters and all those people who would push people to get things done. So in most, especially the corporate space, you'd find cholerics standing out more because they stand out even when they are small. Because they're the people who push people around and push other kids and stand up and tell people what to do. But with time, things have changed. We have realized we don't need 100% management. We need like a 50-50. You need management and you need leadership. And now we are seeing these other personalities come in. So when you talk about the calm people now, we are seeing a lot of melancholics coming into leadership. So we are seeing a lot of introverted people also in leadership. People who are not pushy, we normally call them they're the people who can move mountains in silence. The Mandela kind of people who move mountains in silence. So it's more of influence. They have the calm spirit, the Kibaki calm spirit, but they still get things done. So we are also seeing a lot of that. So as things unfold, we are starting to see a change. You can see a total contrast, as, like for example, between when you look at the two Safaricom guys, if you look at the person we lost the other day, I'm forgetting the name, and the Michael Joseph, they're like two very different characters. You're talking between a choleric and maybe a melancholic who was trying to pick a bit of a sanguine. So normally what happens, if you have a company in a crisis, you need a choleric because you need to fire people. For example, you need to restructure. You need to make some very tough decisions that are not personal, or that does not mean need somebody who is very personal. That is when you bring the Michael Joseph kind of a person who can fire people without feeling a thing. But once things have stabilized, you don't want people to be pushed anymore. Now you want somebody who can bring a harmonious culture and somebody who can bring in the people side of things. Now that's the point you try to blend in somebody who is more people-oriented, or somebody who can easily bring in the people orientation kind of things. Now you move in it to bring somebody who is more people oriented. So again, it also depends with where the organization is. I've got an organization that is stable and things are moving well, you don't need somebody who is too tough. But when an organization is doing badly, you need somebody who can look at people as numbers and not human beings. When things are stable, you need somebody who can see human beings and bring more of leadership than management. So it also depends. So as things unfold, things are also changing. And that's why it's always important to be able to adapt. Even if you are a choleric, try to pick other skills that you can intentionally bring in to fit into the situation as it is. Joe, does this make sense?
Great, thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Anything else before we break?
Oprah was unmuted.
Oh, yeah, there was somebody else.
Yes.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right. And we'll see you in the afternoon, Oprah. You said after tea break. Now we've given you until after lunch.
After lunch.
Get your makeup fixed.
Yes, I'm working on it.
All right. I think we'll take a break at this point up to 2 p.m. Make sure you log back in right on time so that we also finish on time. Enjoy your lunch for those of us who are going to have lunch. Those who are fasting, enjoy your prayer time. And see you straight on at 2 p.m. Thank you so much.